There are really only 4 reasons why a house does not sell. My name is Aaron White. I'm a realtor with the A-List team. My wife and I work together here at the A-List team, and we've worked in real estate for over 10 years. And this is what we see, is that when a house sits on the market for an extended period of time, there's usually only 4 reasons why that house does not sell, why maybe the listing expires or maybe the listing terminates. And this is how we built our entire plan around how to address these 4 reasons. We understand as a seller, it can be really frustrating to have a house sit on the market for a long time. You listed it to sell, you want it to sell. There's a lot of work that goes into selling and getting the property ready. So we've built our entire listing strategy around these 4 reasons and ultimately a step-by-step process to get you all the way to the closing table. So let's dive into the 4 reasons. The first reason is having bad photos. Nothing is worse than seeing an agent post a picture of themselves in the bathroom with them in the reflection in the mirror, or fingers and their thumbs over the camera lens when they're taking the photos and they don't want to drive back out to get a proper photo, or dimly lit room, all those kinds of things, right? Professional photos go a long ways, but there's much more than just professional photos. It's also the positioning of those photos. I'll give you a few examples. 1, if you have prominent features in your home, let's just say a beautiful outdoor living space like a pool or outdoor kitchen, or you have a beautiful winding staircase as you walk in your home, you want those pictures often to be near the front of the listing so that within the first few clicks, you have the curiosity and now they'll continue down to the rest of the home. Of course, some realtors like to have the flow through the house kind of approach. We ultimately focus our strategy on clicking through and get the click-through rate high to get them to come visit your home. The number 2 reason we see houses not sell is because they have a poor marketing plan. And what we mean by that is really the funnel it takes to find the people that are interested in potentially buying your property, and then moving them to a visit, and then moving them to multiple offer situation, ideally, because then you don't really even have to negotiate. You can leverage them against each other, and then ultimately to a sale, right? So from the prospect side, we want to make sure that we're getting in front of as many people as possible. And this is much more than just listing it on the MLS and describing what you can see in the photos. We see so many listings that are like beautiful granite countertops and a winding staircase. Yes, I can see that in the photos. Tell me about the neighborhood. Tell me about what could be searched for. Large backyard for family with kids, so on and so forth. How can we work those wordings into then ultimately creating the experience that the buyer is looking for and get that in front of as many people as possible. So we work on an in-depth marketing plan that covers multiple things. The moment we get a listing with our clients, we go through a process of creating several marketing campaigns, including outdoor marketing, internet marketing, print, industry, and premium marketing, that we get this property out in front of as many people as possible. The more people that see that property ultimately yields to more visits, and from more visits, we get those more offers. If you'd like to get a copy of our marketing plan, reach out to us and we'll email you a PDF or drop one by your house so that you can take a look and understand how we go about really working that funnel from prospect down to the sale of your property, getting you to the closing table. The third reason we see houses not sell is poor communication. And poor communication goes 2 ways. 1, externally with prospective buyers, and then 2, internally with the client that they're representing. On the external side, of course, there's nothing more frustrating for me as a buyer's agent when I'm making an offer and I can't get a response from an agent. They're out for 2.5 days. They didn't set up someone to cover their emails or cover their phone while they were out, and we don't hear from them. That's not good. The other piece from the external communication that's critical is make sure that we're capturing the feedback from the other buyer agents that were coming and visiting the place to give this to the seller. The feedback is ultimately what helps the seller know if they need to change things, what they can change to move the property to the sale point. The other piece is internal communication. Internal communication is really, really, really important. And we schedule our internal communication weekly with our clients to ensure that they understand several things. This is very different, by the way, from most of the listing experience our clients have had previously. We schedule time, usually Tuesday to Thursday. We'll have an email sent out to you. It's going to show you what are the new active listings this last week, new pending listings this last week, the new sold listings this last week that are in your neighborhood, like your property. What was the price per square foot? And if we see photos or features that are maybe not as nice or nicer than your property, we're informing the client what we're seeing in the market so that we have a pulse on pricing. Ultimately, the pricing is the client's decision, and so they can't make informed decisions if they don't have information on what's happening around them. And we make scheduled time to make sure that they're receiving this information. Of course, along with that email, we're going to be giving a feedback on the showings that are happening. What is the feedback that we're getting from the showings that are going out there and other agents, and following up there. The last thing we do each week with each seller is just to ask them, hey, are there any changes you'd like us to do with your listing? Are there any changes that you would like to do with the listing to capture that feedback and go there? Yes, it's monotonous. Yes, it's every week. Yes, we'll be texting you and calling you to touch base with you. The key thing here is if we're not communicating, you don't know what your selling agent or your listing agent is doing, and it's critical that you are informed of what we're doing and how we are ultimately progressing each week with your listing. A lot of agents work really, really hard, but because they do not spend the time to communicate with the client what they're doing, the client assumes that that agent's not doing anything. And that's not the case. So we schedule that time to make sure that we're clearly communicating with our clients, talking to them, and informing them of the moves that are happening so that they can make informed decisions to reach their goals. Because ultimately, the client is the one usually stuck paying a mortgage or stuck with a house maybe that they don't want. They want to sell it, right? So we need to make sure that they are informed. That's critical. The fourth reason we see of why houses don't sell is price. Yes, price is extremely important for several reasons. First of all, it doesn't really matter what condition the home is, because I get that, oh, you forgot property condition. If the property is priced correctly, then property condition doesn't usually impact things because it will still move. Now, it might not meet your financial goals, therefore it might make sense to fix a few things or upgrade a few things to move the property faster. However, price does ultimately impact the time of sale. This is why we take so much effort to weekly communicate on what's happening in prices with houses in your neighborhood so that you can stay informed. So how do you price this? And this is one mistake I see with several listings. Sometimes you'll have a seller who thinks like, hey, I'm really okay with X value, but I'm gonna do X plus Y plus Z because they're gonna negotiate with me and I wanna end up there, right? And although yes, you do maybe wanna have a listing price above your actual price, you wanna make sure you're not going too far above, because if you go too far above, happens quite a bit. I'll get people who call and say, hey, is there an issue with the foundation on this house or the roof or some structural issue because something doesn't look right? It's been sitting on the market for a long time. Tell me a little bit more about this house. So you get more concerns about something being physically wrong with the property that's maybe not in the pictures or maybe not in the disclosure that raises some eyebrows. The other thing too is if the price ends up coming down by big figures later, then often they see a desperate seller, and you'll typically get a lot of lowball offers, and you might see a lot of people have more concerns again about the condition of that property. So if you start too high, and in some cultures, this is how it works, right? I grew up overseas. If you start too high, you might think, oh, we can always negotiate, but that's not really the case. That's not how it works in Texas, where we see prices need to be relatively closer. Of course, it depends a little bit on the market. We saw times during 2021 where things were super hot and you could stretch those market, but the agent should know ultimately how to price it and what they're seeing in terms of trends. You can look at price per square foot, you can look at sold price to list price ratios and kind of see the trends. Are they going above, are they going below? You can look at current days on market, and these are all things that agents have data for. They should be able to show you, talk you through, and help you ultimately reach your goal of balance between price and time. So here at the Alias team, we create our entire experience around these 4 blockers. What things are stopping clients from selling their homes? We take good professional photos, we place them correctly. We have a properly written out marketing plan that you can ask us to see, and we like to hand out and show you what we're gonna do. We have ultimately good communication and scheduled communication with our team to ensure that we're not missing how we're communicating internally and externally with prospective buyers. And last of all, we talk about price and how we communicate with price to make sure that our sellers are ultimately informed on the decision they can take to reach their financial goal in the time that they need to meet that goal. Selling a home isn't rocket science, but it can be very frustrating if you've had a bad experience selling a home before. Make sure that your agent is covering these 4 reasons and has a plan to address each of these. Make sure to reach out to us on our website or give us a call. We'd love to help you list your property, and we'll see you at the closing table.